So today I wanted to make a video talking about 4 mistakes that you're probably making in college. Now, there's a chance that you're not making all of these mistakes. There's actually a chance you're not making any of those mistakes. Hopefully that's the case for you. But looking back at myself over the past 3.5 years, these are some mistakes that I've made and I've noticed in other people. So I decided to make this video, and hopefully this will be able to help you out and you can see if you're making these mistakes and how you can fix them. Mistake number 1, you're trying to do too much and you're not prioritizing the things that you actually care about. I feel like this issue is probably most common in underclassmen, and when you think about it, it makes sense. That's because underclassmen have just recently finished up with high school, and in high school it's pretty common to be doing a whole bunch of clubs and activities. Speaking for myself, I was doing soccer, tennis, science olympiad, orchestra, and a whole bunch of other things. So naturally it makes sense that when you start college, you think, oh, I need to sign up for a whole bunch of clubs and get really involved, just like I was in high school. The reality is you don't need to be in 4 or 5 different clubs to put on your resume, because realistically you're going to be spread too thin and you won't be able to make an impact in any of those groups. Now, it's okay to experiment in the beginning. You might actually sign up for a couple different clubs and go to their opening events just to see what they're all about. The first one you choose doesn't need to be the one you stick with. But if you sign up for 4 different clubs, don't think you need to stay in all 4 of them just because you signed up in the first place. Make sure you figure out which ones you're really passionate about and then focus on those, and you don't need to worry about fluffing up your resume with the other ones. Mistake number 2, depriving yourself of sleep and or staying up super late. When I was a freshman, I started staying up way later than I did in high school. Now in high school, I always went to bed between 9 and 10 o'clock at night, but then pretty early in freshman year, I started staying up till 11, sometimes even later than that, maybe midnight. And this isn't necessarily super late, but I realized that for me, in those last couple hours of the night, I wasn't really getting much done generally. Maybe I was watching some YouTube or Netflix, and then that would also destroy my productivity the next morning. I would either wake up too early and then I was really tired the next day, or I'd sleep in and then I wasn't getting much done in the mornings. Now, I'm not trying to say that you need to go to bed early. I do happen to go to bed around 10 o'clock, which I know for most people in college is probably considered pretty early. What I'm trying to say is you need to figure out what time works best for you. There's some people who are super productive in the evenings, and going to bed at 10 o'clock would just be a waste. If you're one of those people, maybe you go to bed at midnight and you sleep in. Looking at myself, I am most productive in the mornings. That's when I record these videos, and that's when I get a lot of my work done. As a result, I go to bed at 10 o'clock and then I typically get up around 6:30, and that lets me be so much more productive in the mornings and not waste a ton of time in the evenings. The other thing that belongs in this section, and is probably even more important than when you're going to bed and when you're waking up in the morning, is how much sleep you're getting. Now, I hear it a lot in college, people saying that they only get 4 hours of sleep a night. It's almost like a badge of honor to say, this is how busy I am, at least that's the culture at the school I go to. But the reality is, you should be aiming for probably between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every night. An expression that I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with is, I can sleep when I'm dead. Now, I hate this expression, and frankly, if you do that, you're just going to die sooner and you're going to have more problems and stress along the way. When you're in college, I realize when you're busy, it can be hard to prioritize sleep. It can seem like something to push to the side. It is not the most important thing, but if you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to be less productive during the day and you're going to be tired, you're going to be cranky. So realistically, it might seem like you don't have the time to sleep because you're busy, but the time that you spend during the day is going to be less productive and effective if you're not getting that sleep. So make sure you're prioritizing that. That is super important. Also, one last thing before I wrap up this section. I recently watched a really good TED Talk by Matt Walker all about sleep. I'll leave that link down in the description if you want to check it out. But basically, he talks about all the things that are going to happen to you if you don't sleep enough and just how important it is. So if you're still not a believer in sleep, you still don't think you really need it, that's not important to you, just watch that video. It's about 20 minutes long, I think, and hopefully it'll make you a believer in sleep. I know it definitely scared me in a couple different ways and made me realize I definitely need to prioritize my sleep. Anyways, on to the next section. The third mistake you're probably making is doing everything at the last minute. Something I feel like a lot of people in college can relate to is the feeling of always being slightly behind in the cycle of schoolwork. You're always finishing your assignments the night that they're due, you're studying for exams the night before they're gonna happen, and I've been there myself too, many times. And even though I'm really big on making schedules and plans to try to avoid this kind of stuff, things come up, things take longer than expected, and next thing you know, you're behind again. The issue is, if you continue doing this all semester, you'll either be really stressed because you're always finishing things right at the last minute, or you're just going to lose a lot of points turning things in late. And the best way I've found to prevent this is right at the beginning of the semester, to shift ahead your schedule so you're always doing stuff as soon as it comes out. Instead of waiting a couple days, it's due in a week, you don't need to do that right now, you're enjoying being back on campus, whatever it is, do that right away. Now, obviously this is not a perfect method, and exams will definitely still throw it off. Sometimes there's issues with the assignments and you have to go back and fix things, or they just take a really long time. But the other thing to keep in mind is, if for whatever reason you do fall behind again, you need to make an effort to catch back up. So that means if you had an exam and all of a sudden you're back on the other side of things and you're getting things done right by the deadline, put in a little bit of extra effort every day to get yourself back ahead so that you're doing your things as soon as they come out once again, instead of spending the rest of the semester being really stressed out, operating really close to deadlines. The fourth mistake you're probably making in college is putting too much emphasis on one thing. This last point might seem like it contradicts the first point, but really all I'm saying here is that you need to find balance. College is more than any one thing. Obviously it's your education, which for me is probably my top priority and is a super important component of college, obviously, but you also need to consider the fact that you're going to have friendships, personal relationships, projects on the side, doing clubs. You're going to do a whole bunch of different things in college, and if you're only thinking about one aspect of that, there's a lot of other parts of college that are going to get left behind, and next thing you know, it'll have been 4 years, you'll have graduated from college, and you'll have completely missed out on really important parts of the college experience. Now, I can't tell you what the perfect balance is because I haven't found it, and it's different from person to person, but what I can tell you is that I have found a balance that I'm happy with. The important thing to keep in mind here is that you just need to be willing to evaluate your own life, see if you're happy with your balance, and if you're not, you need to be willing to make tweaks and adjustments to become happy with that balance. You can't just say, well, I'm not happy with my balance, and that's that. So, the first thing you need to do, figure out what you actually want to do, figure out what you want to prioritize, what makes you happy, and then you need to look at your schedule and figure out how you're actually going to make time for all of those things. It's one thing to say, I want to devote more time to personal relationships, but if you don't take time away from something else, no more time's going to just appear out of thin air. You need to find a way to make time for those relationships, or whatever it happens to be for you. Alright guys, if you found that video useful, please hit the thumbs up button. I really appreciate it. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for new videos every single week. That's it. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.